Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today, and one that you've been asking for, because now that the MiSTer FPGA Sega Saturn core is basically buttoned up, I've been getting a lot of people talking about wanting to know some hidden gems on the platform. I'm going to do more than one of these videos if the first video does successful, and we're kind of starting at the outer layer of the onion, because the Sega Saturn library is absolutely massive, especially when you get into Japanese exclusive. So we're going to be talking about some of my favorite games to play on the Saturn core and Sega Saturn hardware today, ones that you might not think of. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, it's not like the Sega Saturn has a ton of 3D platformers. The ones that are most well known are probably going to be games like Croc, but Willy the Wombat is absolutely a ton of fun and a game that most people probably don't even realize exists, which is a bummer because this game definitely deserves to be played by anyone who is a 3D platforming fan, and I would say that the developers absolutely got the gameplay as well as the technology of Willy Wombat correct. It takes place at almost like a 45-degree isometric angle, and you're able to freely rotate the camera around left and right in 360 degrees. And considering this was the era where 3D cameras definitely tripped up some developers and they could fight you, Willy the Wombat has a really good camera that basically allows you to see everything you need to do, so you're never going to be fighting the camera or taking a death because you couldn't see what was coming. And honestly, again, it's not like the Sega Saturn had a ton of 3D platformers, but if this video does well, I'm sure there will be a part 2, and I have a couple other platformers to talk about, but I'm trying to diversify up the genres for these videos. But Willy the Wombat basically has absolutely everything you want out of a 3D platformer. It's charming, the storyline, even in Japanese, is fun with the cutscenes. You have a full map system as well where you can understand the layout of the levels, and the levels are designed to be really interesting but also linear enough so you're not getting completely lost. And again, this map system definitely keeps it a little bit more sane because some 3D platforms could be absolutely maze-like in their structure. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever played Willy the Wombat before, and did you know it existed? Because in this series of videos, like I said, I'm kind of starting with some hidden gems that aren't completely 100% deep cuts, so maybe some of you have heard about these before. The game also has an amazing soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll be right back with more. Honestly, not only is the music really good, it's pretty dramatic in that bass line, and there is a ton of fun. So if you've never played Willy the Wombat before, I can't recommend it enough, whether you're on MiSTer FPGA, real Sega Saturn hardware, or software emulation. It has all the components of an awesome 3D platform, and honestly, the camera just works super well. And again, it's one of those things. Cameras back in the day, in this era, were definitely not great. Sure, Willy the Wombat isn't going to be as charming as someone like Crash Bandicoot or Croc or Mario, but it is a fun character, it's a fun game, and definitely worth checking out. And moving on to the next game in this Hidden Gem series, and one that's definitely going to be a complete tone vibe shift. This is Baroque, and it is the English translation. And while there are other ways to play Baroque, honestly, on the Sega Saturn, the original release platform for the game, I just think it has the best vibe and looks the best compared to any other platform out there. And I know a lot of people have never heard of this game before, and the people that have might not know that it has a full English translation as of recently as well. So Baroque is here, and it's ready for you to play on Sega Saturn in English. And honestly, the Saturn's VDP-1 and VDP-2 rendering of this game just look absolutely stunning. The dramatic lighting, the pixelated walls, the overall grimy nature, and all of the charming and weird sprites just make Baroque an absolutely insane experience. Before I get too much further ahead, big thanks to Kilter Music for helping with the captures on this video. We were chatting in the background about hidden gems on both Sega Saturn and Nintendo 64, and he's been a great help getting this done for me as well. But honestly, Baroque is awesome. It's a first-person dungeon crawler with RPG elements and some of the weirdest sprite work and polygon work on Sega Saturn. It is dramatic, it is dark, it definitely has a horror vibe going on, and it has a great storyline as well as an amazing soundtrack. So we're getting to soundtrack sample number 2, 45 seconds, but come back because I still have 3 more Sega Saturn hidden gems to show you that if you've never played before, you're 100% missing out on. The soundtrack of Baroque just 100% works because it has that deep horror aesthetic. You can even hear that heartbeat in the background, and all of the enemy sound effects really do make it seem like you're in a horror setting and you really are fighting for your life. And add into that the light RPG elements and the fact that this has a full English translation now, and you really have a recipe for a game that is going to get its hooks into you and you're going to spend dozens of hours with, because this is not a quick game. And you'll see here as you go into the menu, everything is in perfect English now, because before some time you could never play this game because it was all in Japanese, and unless you understood kanji, you were going to get lost. So it was one of those games people knew it existed on the Sega Saturn but never checked it out because it was just too difficult to play. Now that is not the case in any way, shape, or form, and I absolutely just think this looks stunning on actual Sega Saturn hardware, MiSTer FPGA, and honestly most of the polygons relatively don't wobble either. It's one, I think, of the best showcases for what the Sega Saturn hardware can actually do in 3D, and you just combine this really dark atmosphere and all of these wild enemy sprites, and you just have a situation where you're going to have an amazing time with this if this is the type of genre you like. And again, being able to actually understand what you're doing in the game and getting the story in English makes a huge difference, because before maybe you could kind of poke your way through this game with a walkthrough, but now having this entire menu with all of your statistics and everything else you need to understand in full English, it's just going to make it that much more enjoyable. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever played Baroque before, and have you ever heard of it? I'm curious to see how deep of the deep cuts we're getting into this video, because I feel like this is one at least a decent amount of people know about. And honestly, the enemies in this game are some of the best sprite work on Sega Saturn. I just love how weird and deformed they are, and the further you get into the game, the weirder it's going to get, so it's definitely worth checking out. Can't recommend it enough. I think you're going to have a ton of fun with it, and if you have heard of it before and you haven't played the English translation, I will leave a link in the description below to that patch so you can go ahead and enjoy it for yourself. But now moving on to something completely different, this is Wangan Heat. I'm pretty sure most people didn't realize there's actually a Wangan game on Sega Saturn. And of course, if it's a Wangan game, it's going to have a Wangan style soundtrack. So it's soundtrack sample number 3, and I'll be right back with a ton more gameplay footage. I mean, that's just some straight up good soundtrack for a racing game. Now, I know everyone thinks of Daytona USA, they think of stuff like Sega Rally, maybe even Sega Touring Car Championship on Sega Saturn when they think of racing games, but honestly, Wangan here is just a ton of fun. Now, it did come out in North America with a different title, but it's one of those things, getting the Wangan theming, and it just works, and you get so many fun race courses, so much fun drifting, and it really does feel completely different than any of the Sega racing games on the platform. That's because obviously it was developed by Genki and not by Sega. So take my word for this, if you're looking for another fun racing game on Sega Saturn, check out Wangan Heat. It just really hits, and it is a classic. Now moving over to the 2D beat 'em up section, everyone's going to think of stuff like Guardian Heroes and the like, but Three Dirty Dwarfs definitely hits as far as beat 'em ups are concerned, pun incredibly intended. It has a real fun gameplay hook, it's got some great 2D sprite work, and it has a ton of weird charm. It's one of those games that I feel like most people have at least heard of it, but maybe not many people have actually played it. So again, leave me that comment down below and tell me if you've ever checked this one out before. It isn't going to live up to the standard of something like Guardian Heroes. That is definitely an S tier game, but this is like one tier below it. So if you're looking for another fun beat 'em up game, especially one you can play with friends, Three Dirty Dwarfs just absolutely has you covered. And I love the sprite work in this game and all of the different diverse enemies. The game just has a complete vibe, flair, and charm to it that you don't really see in many other Sega Saturn games. It is a little bit weird, but that is all of the fun. And honestly, even though we have so many good beat 'em ups on Saturn, why not play one more? And that is kind of the thing about these videos. I'm trying to diversify the genre so you get a little taste of everything. That way it's not the best 5 deep cut hidden gem arcade racing games on Sega Saturn. I feel like that would get a little bit repetitive. And honestly, especially in 2025, I feel like a lot of people are discovering Sega Saturn for the first time, because not many of my viewers seem to have a Saturn back in the day, and a lot of these games just pass them by. And if you go ahead onto Google and you look up the best Sega Saturn games of all time, pretty much every list is going to have the same 10 to 15 games on them, and something like Three Dirty Dwarfs is just not going to pop up, even though it deserves to be on maybe the top 100 list. Definitely a ton of fun with an awesome soundtrack. So we're into our third soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back to show you one more game. Now moving over to a game that I feel like most of you have heard of, but maybe not many of you actually played. This is Deep Fear. Sega obviously wanted to take on Capcom with Resident Evil because it was absolutely insanely successful back in the day, and pretty much every other developer out there wanted their own Resident Evil style game. So Sega went ahead and made something like Deep Fear. The reason I'm including it on this list is I feel like most people will tell you, at least on the internet, that the game isn't very good and the voice acting is terrible. Now right off the top, I will say the voice acting is maybe some of the worst we ever got this generation, but if you kind of come at it from a camp cheese attitude, you're going to actually enjoy it. But as far as the actual gameplay is concerned and survival horror, this game just 100% absolutely does everything right, from the overall oxygen scheme to every other bit of tension in the title. This is every bit as good as Resident Evil, even if it doesn't have these same sort of zombies. And it's one of those things, if you've seen this game and you've thought to yourself, it just looks like an RE clone, or I heard it's bad, definitely play it. You're going to have a ton of fun. And honestly, like I said, the voice acting is terrible, but it's terrible in all the best ways possible. Listen to this and I'll be right back.
Mayor, we've got a serious situation.
What's the problem?
A while ago, the Sea Fox, which was just getting ready to depart, crashed into the Navy area.
Crash? What happened?
We don't know yet. I asked Dubois, the designer, to come too.
Oh, there's no problem with my CFOX system. No accident should have occurred. Oh!
We can't get through on the wireless to either the Sea Fox or the Navy area. We have no idea what's going on over there.
This is terrible. My masterpiece is ruined. Oh, what am I going to do?
The rescue force has been contacted, but they can't make it for a while.
So yeah, that's just some of the voice acting you're going to get in Deep Fear, and that's probably why the game always gets made fun of, but it's one of those things. People will go online and tell you that something's not worth playing just because the voice acting is as bad as that, but definitely if you've never played it before, play Deep Fear. Do me that favor. You're going to have a good time, and if this video does well, there'll definitely be a part 2, so go ahead and recommend some of your favorite Sega Saturn hidden gems down below, and I just might show up in a future video. But now that Sega Saturn is getting a ton of fan translations in 2025, obviously now we have the MiSTer FPGA core and awesome options for software emulation, including original hardware with optical disc emulators and other cartridges to play games. It's never been a better time to be a Sega Saturn fan. It's never been a better time to jump into Sega Saturn. That's why I wanted to make a video like this and see if it would do well, to see if I'd make a part 2. So again, definitely play these games. If you have any recommendations for other games, I'm all ears. Leave that comment down below and tell me, did you have a Sega Saturn back in the day, or are you coming to it fresh in 2025? But we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.